This is Living Your Life Well Planned, the 80-20-365 Success System with Adam Vincent Gilmer. I'm your host, Gene Velitis, and welcome to episode number 12. And today in episode number 12, we're going to be talking about exactly exactly what is and how to use the 80-20 rule. And as we always say on every episode, to make the most out of these free podcasts, make sure you go to Adam's website, 80-20-365.com, order your daily planner, and follow along with us. And it's going to be something that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. And every 90 days, you'll be getting into another planner, and they'll stack up in your garage or bedroom. And it really will be great to look back at it because it is your life journey. Now, Adam, when I was doing my research, I was really shocked to learn that the 80-20 rule is called the Pareto principle. It was named after its founder, the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. And what really shocked me was he came up with this in the year 1895. That's incredible. So for the uninitiated, the people who are still wrapping their head around the whole 80-20 rule and the entire system here, define the 80-20 rule in its simplest terms. Exactly what is it? Then we'll start talking about how to use it.
All right. So of course you can everyone can go online and Google it. It'll great definition will come over there. But I'm going to put it into layman's terms. Here's what it is. 20% of what you do every single day literally leads you to 80% gains. And 80% of what you're doing every single day doesn't produce much of anything in your life. That's as simple as I can make it without somebody going and actually getting into the science of what it means. It literally says and means that some of the things that you do on a daily basis lead to great things taking place in your life versus the many trivial things that you can do that everybody does every single day, driving a car, cleaning the house, doing the basics of basics. It produces results, but it produces low, not very, very high payoff results. And by the way, when you start to think of a high performance person, I'm going to tell you right there, just that word, high performance person, moves things up to the top, which is a 20% item. And that 20% item, if you're thinking and doing high performance stuff or activities and habits, you will get 80% results in your life. If you're planning and organizing and you're saying this is the dream that you're looking to manifest for your life, and you go back to doing the trivial many things that are easy to do, my friend, my listener, you will never, ever get that dream. But if you reorganize it, do some research, buy some books. This is the 80-20 rule by Richard Koch, the book. Find out who Vilfredo is on the Pareto principle, and understand that he discovered that back in Italy, okay, he studied the wealth. He was studying the wealth of the world, and he found out that 20% of the people literally controlled 80% of the wealth. Okay, and conversely, 80% of the people only had 20% of the wealth back in those days. Now it's less today. It's more like 90-10, or maybe even 5-95, right? But that what I'm talking about, 5% of the people control 95% of the wealth, or what today. Back then, he was studying the stuff. So let me tell you how important this is for all of you, and why we're doing these podcasts, and why I put the planner together, and created the life I have around myself, is because I did not want to be a loser. Okay, I was done with having failure showed up. So I decided to get into personal development. Didn't know it was personal development, Gene. And I remember going to my very first meeting, not first meeting, but my very first weekend seminar with Jim Rohn. And Jim said something. Now, you have to understand, I didn't know Jim Rohn from anybody, okay? It was just like I was told as a distributor of that company that you might want to go listen to this. It's great. He's an unbelievable speaker. And he is, and was, rest his soul. He was my first real mentor. Now, there's something else I need to make a confession on, and that is I have very, very high-performing parents, my mother and my father. All my brothers were all successful, all in different businesses. We're all millionaires, okay? So what I did find out, though, is I had the kind of parents. My mom was listening to a great thinker when he was alive back on the radio, and his name was Earl Nightingale.
Right.
And I never got to really meet Earl. I've got his recordings and stuff. But what I learned from my mother was she was listening to these great thinkers when I was a baby in her womb. Now, I'm not saying that I had all this amazing program that I could even understand language. What I'm saying is that this was a consistency with my mother. She's an educator, okay? And my mom inculcated into us that people who want to get ahead in life take in knowledge, do reading, look things up, do research. And when they find a truth, when they find a fact, people act on it. It's like the feeling of love. You know, how can you explain love to somebody if you've never been in love before? Fall in love. Oh, you understand what love is. Okay. The 80-20 principle is the same. When you start to get your energy around it, you understand that 80% of what you're doing every single day is only going to produce low payoff results for you, versus flipping that around and saying, let me focus on high priorities, high payoff activities. Let me focus on the deals. Let me focus on building the relationships. Let me focus on the right spirituality. Let me focus on having great communication. These things stacked up, small little changes over a long period of time, stack up in your favor. So every high performance person you can think of, I know we just lost Kobe Bryant, but you go through all the high performance athletes, every single one of them are focused on 20% high payoff activities. They're not focused on the trivial many 80% that everybody can do. And when you start to get your head around this and understand that if we can just change a few things that you're doing with your 86,400 seconds of the day, 1,440 minutes, and instead of wasting that time, everybody's going to sleep. So we all have the same amount of sleep, more or less. Okay. 7 hours, somewhere in that range, maybe 5 hours for the true high performer. Because people who are on purpose don't watch clocks. Okay.
Right.
They're always going. Okay. People who don't like their job, working a 9 to 5, okay, are like, they can't wait for 5 to show up so you can get the hell out of that job. Okay. It's painful and drudgery for them. What I'm suggesting you do is start to understand that if we can focus high payoff activities every single hour on the hour throughout the day, and you start working on a 20% item, a fear thing first, bottom line, solve others and work, planning, preparing, getting serious, direction, you are going to end up in a much, much better place than you currently not doing this and not learning what the 80-20 principle is. By the way, do you know how many companies employ the 80-20 principle?
Oh.
Right? It's ridiculous. When you find out how important this is in your life, you will move everything that you're doing and say, okay, goodness, what is Adam talking about? What is Gene talking about? Let me go do some research. This principle will literally change the outcome of your life when you focus on high payoff 20s.
Right. Now, if you're listening to this podcast or if you're watching the video on the website, you're already taking a step in the right direction to use this plan to have a better life with better results. Now, the 80-20 principle, invented in 1895, as you said, it's used by thousands of corporations around the world. It's the basis of this plan. But again, for the uninitiated, for the person listening to this for the very first time, yeah, they're going to buy into it. They're going to say, well, if Adam says so, it must be working. If it worked for all these people back in 1895, it must be working. The big question is, when you dive into the swimming pool of 80-20, where do you start? How do you get organized? How do you know if you're on track with 80-20?
I wish it was as simple as saying to everybody, just listen to the podcast. No, you need to not only listen, I'm demanding that you take action. Do you understand? Like, part of our other lessons was, this isn't a play around thing for me. This isn't like, this isn't just a money maker. Okay. I don't do this just to make the money. I do this because if you do what we're suggesting you do, plan, organize, get serious, get yourself a planner, go to the website, buy it, get it, do some research. You're going to tell yourself that if you don't, the 20% 80-20 rule is going to work for you this way. If you don't go and get a planner and you don't do any of this stuff, I'm sorry, your dreams, are not going to be, you're not working towards your dream right away. And that fear of loss statement for you is this: what does this cost to do? Okay, I'll tell you. I could charge $50,000 to $100,000 for this stuff. Okay, because major universities use this around the world. The iPhone uses it. All the computers that you're watching, all these companies are employing the 80/20 principle. It is a high payoff activity for you to go get planned, organized, and start moving your life towards a dream. Then I demand, go to the website, go get it done, get planned, go through the process, take these 9, 10, 15 episodes, and we'll continue into the future and learn. You just did a 20% high payoff activity. You just moved yourself in that direction. Gene, why is it important that people listen to what they don't have to, we're not the most intelligent people in the planet, but we're high achievers. How to become a high achiever? We listen to something. As I said, Jim showed me, not just me. I think that seminar, he had about 600-700 people in that seminar. I don't know how many people took his words and said, let me go make it happen. But I do know that some people, maybe less than 20% of that audience that day, took what he had to say and have probably become amazing people in the world because they focus their time and energy on this little principle. And this is the encouragement to the people listening in to our podcast, watching on the website, binge listening, as you like to say. Go and do something. Don't just listen to what we have to say. I mean, I know Gene's got a much better radio voice than what I have. He just comes across the deep voice. I'm not that guy, but we decided to put this together so that I'm getting amazing results in my life because I'm actually doing it, Gene. It's not just a talking head. We actually sit around and we do it.
Mm-hmm. I think a really great definition I heard of the 80/20 rule when I was learning all this material. I was talking to somebody today, and I remember I told you the story when we were on the road on one of our many trips. I was telling this one mentor in my life, he was asking me what I did. And I said, well, I mowed the lawn this morning and I did the laundry and I washed my car. And then I started doing my daily activities. And he said to me, why are you concentrating on 3 minimum wage jobs when you should be concentrating on one job and that's making $1 million? And the shift in my system was, boy, did I ever understand 80/20 right away? And that is exactly, why was I doing the laundry and washing my car, which is a minimum wage job, when I should have been paying attention to making the $1 million?
Gene, I don't wash my car. It's gorgeous, cleaned and detailed. I don't do any of my laundry. I don't clean up around the house.
There's nothing wrong with that, of course.
Right.
But right. But again, if you're going to understand the 80/20 rule, you got to start with the basics.
You do. And here's the basics. Sorry, you ready? I'm going to read this from his book here, the 80/20 Principle, Richard Koch's book. This is page 39. He says this: becoming an 80/20 thinker requires active participation on your part. Oh, there you go. Okay, it just sums it up. So you were talking about low payoff activities there a moment ago on low wage stuff. Okay, well, if you continue doing that, that's where you're gonna stay. It's okay for you to wash the car and it's okay for you to do that stuff, but is it a high payoff activity? No. It would be better to say, let me go and see what I need to do every single day. What am I afraid to get done because my dream absolutely might happen? Write it down as a fair thing first. Just go do that for the day. Get that out of your way. You've done a high payoff activity. And then go wash the car, then go do your laundry, and do these other things, because it's a mental shift. The active participation of you once you've learned something is a 20% high payoff activity. I'll say that again. The fact that we're telling you about the 80/20 principle and it's getting into the head, okay? You're listening to this episode. It's a high payoff activity. Now, let's go focus on what 20% payoff activities are versus the trivial few, which anybody can do. It's a major mental shift, Gene, when people start practicing this.
Right. So when you use your daily planner, how are you going to get into the groove of practicing 80/20? And how is your mind going to, that little voice, how's that little voice going to say, hang on, this isn't an 80/20 activity? Because I don't like to use the word change. You're going to have to grow into the 80/20 mindset. So how do you catch yourself fallen back into the old habits?
Okay, so on my computer, but this that we're doing this show on today, every hour on the hour, my computer speaks to me. It tells me the time, and I've made a mental note to myself that I'm going to blitz for the first part of every hour of every single day. So when I'm in my office and it's going to go, it's 10 a.m., it's 12 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock, it's what have you. And I've got this stuff going off. By the way, the same reminder alarms go off on my phone because this is how I'm conditioned. I've learned that it's easy to get off track, but it's also easy when you're reminded to pull yourself back in and be trued up. And if you start to understand that a lot of time goes wasted every single day, okay, and you can never get any time back, ever, okay? So let's be sensible. Let's do little tricks that's going to sharpen you up, make you a better sword in the marketplace, okay? And blitz and do stuff every hour on the hour. It's little things like this that I try and help people understand that is a high payoff activity. It trues you up. You say, Ben, I've got to get that done. I've got to get that done. And then what happens is you're getting that thing done, and then you've accomplished, and it goes, and everything slows down. Then the next hour shows up, boom, you got to go get that done. And these are the things that high producing activity people are doing. And Gene, I feel sorry for the person who's listening and doesn't do this stuff. Because, it's fun to have a show. It's fun to have a great website. It's fun to have a planner. It's fun to have all this stuff. But we've done it. You've been on the road with me, Gene, as we've traveled from city to city to city to city to city. The success leaves clues. And we're talking about the 80-20 principle on purpose, because when you have a purpose in your planner, when you have your 5-year bottom lines done, when you have your 30 days done, when you have your calendar done, and when you go down to the daily sheets in the planner, okay, in the daily sheets, there's actually a section in here. Here's the lesson I did for you guys today. Here it is. There's actually a sheet in here that says, these are my 20s, these are my 80s. And I'm telling you, in my planner, I have very few 80s planned. Okay, like I don't sit around and say, let me plan out my 80s. No. I get people to do my 80s, which is a 20% for them, because it's their job, it's their this, it's their that. Okay, so the person who comes in, the team that comes and does the gardening here, or cleans the house, or whatever the case is. I don't fly planes, Gene. I'm not a pilot. I don't have a pilot's license. So when I book my airline ticket to go somewhere, it's not that I'm saying, gee whiz, I hope that pilot's planned and organized today. I mean, to me, that's an 80%. To him, I just bought the airline ticket to go. To that pilot, he's planned, or she's planned, organized, on purpose, has a plan. And that's how this thing works together, right? So some of my 20s, high payoff activities for me, are probably 80s for some other people. And
Right.
some of, and vice versa. And this is how it comes together work. But in the planner, I plan out my 20s. I do this routinely every single day, and I score it. It's a 20. I see what's happening. It's a 20. I'm reviewing. I'm performing. I'm getting things done. These are all high payoff activities that lead a person. It doesn't matter what business they're in, what they do for a living. Architect, artist, accountant, teacher, professional worker, high income earner, whatever. I'm telling you that when you understand the 80-20 principle and you plan it out, great things take place in your life. It's almost like the best plan in the world to be on.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, if you go back to episode number 9, where we were talking about how to start your day, and when you're planning out your day in your book, I find, and you can tell me if you agree with me on this one, I find that I, over time become very conscious of the kind of activities that I'm planning for my day. For example, I would never put in my daily planner, well, goof off for 45 minutes. I mean, who would write that down? But you know what? If you don't have the planner, if you're not planning your day, if you're not scoring your day, which is going to be coming up in our next episode 13, so we won't get into much of that in this episode. But if you're planning out your day properly, how to start your day, go back, listen to episode 9 again. You're not going to put in those activities that don't lead to high performance results.
1,000%. We talked about goals and dreams in the previous episode, and I talked about having a book. So look, here's a book, right? Front cover, back cover. And you talked about what are the goals, how do we get to the goals and the definitions and this, that, and the other, and objectives. Well, why would somebody put a book like this together, spend time publishing it, have it proofread, what have you? And by the way, my books are all marked up, and the books on my shelf I like to read. But just so you know, we're talking about the 80-20 principle, and it sums it up. It sums it up here for everybody, and it says this: the 80-20 principle is one of the greatest secrets of highly effective people and organizations. This is why you want to get a planner, okay? Because we've actually done the work for you as far as the plan. What you have to do is put in your ingenuity, your creativity, and just follow through on the steps. Did you know, for example, that 20% of the customers account for 80% of its revenue? So watch this. We're going to touch a whole bunch of people with our webisodes and our podcasts and what have you. And I already know that I'm not going to get 100% activity, okay? I already know this going into the game. Right. I'm not looking for 100% activity, Gene. I'm looking for the person like you, me, the listeners, like, man, these men are making sense to me with these thoughts and ideas. Let me take action. That's the person that we're going after, right? That 1 out of 100 or 2 or maybe 20, okay, out of 100. The last thing it talks about here, which I think was really awesome when you were mentioning goals and dreams and what have you, it says here that the 80-20 principle shows how we can achieve more with much less effort. Okay, so let me explain this to everybody. The one phone call that you're afraid to do. Should I prospect this person? Should I give this person, I'm afraid to get them on the phone. I don't know what to say. That there, when you feel that come up, that thought energy come in your life, let me just tell you, that's how you know it's a 20% high payoff activity. It shows up with almost like a forbearance, a fear saying, don't do it. Don't, you know it's going to be handled, and you're afraid to do it. And what you said is, dilly-dallying for 45 minutes. What happens is, if you don't handle that thing when it shows up right away, and the thought energy shows up where you know it's a high payoff activity, but you're afraid to do it. If you don't handle it, it procrastinates in your life, and it goes throughout the day, and it's there, and you're like, you haven't handled it, and you didn't handle it today. Oh, then it's gonna have to be handled tomorrow, and that's what people do. Oh, I'll handle that tomorrow. I'll handle that tomorrow. No, stop. Don't be a fool. Don't be fooled by these little. Your thought energy is great. The difference is that you're not reading it right. What it means is, pick up the phone, make the call, have the confrontational moment with yourself, okay, with yourself and your thoughts to say, let me go handle this. This is a high payoff activity. And by handling that thing, you've now moved yourself into a high payoff, high activity individual. And now you start to thinking along the lines of all the great thinkers that are out there, and all the authors of books who have spent their time and energy putting it together so you get some facts. The difference between myself and a lot of the other people out there is I actually do this every single day. And I lead by example. And then, some people say, Adam, you're so lucky, you're so fortunate, you're this and the other. I'm like, look, I guess I'm lucky that I have a good work ethic. Or I had parents that said, and thank God I did have these parents that said, these are the facts. This is what you got to do. Now go to work. And I had encouragers along the line, my mentors, people like Eugene, others that said, you're almost there. You can't give up. You're almost there. You can't give up. And whatever those 20% things are that are showing up that you're not doing, I would encourage all of you to go for it. Because by doing just one 20% high payoff activity, you're going to move your life in an incredible direction, because the gain's going to be so big. So you do this one little high payoff activity and boom, 80% result out of that one activity. And this is what I want to encourage you to do specifically on this episode. Besides getting the book and getting the planner, just do it. Just do it.
And isn't it interesting, when that phone weighs 5,000 pounds, when you actually do that activity and you get the call done, it suddenly only weighs a few ounces for every phone call that you do after that. Isn't that right?
It's absolutely correct. What if we didn't do this show, right? What if we didn't put all this stuff in place? What if we didn't have a website? Then, what's the purpose? What's the point? The point is we do. The point is we think enough of what we're doing and it's working. It's working for me. It's working for thousands of other people. Okay. It can work for you too. You've just got to plug in. It's like electricity, Gene. You know, having the computers and everything else, having the phone is all great, but if it has no power, it's just a weight.
Yeah.
Okay, but you plug it in, you get it charged up. How many of you actually charge your phone every day before you go to sleep? You plug it in. Why? So it's charged and ready to go in the morning, right? Okay, that's a high payoff activity. Keeping your phone charged, right? Okay, so and you know what it's like when you got your phone's dead, you run around saying, "Hey, do you have a charger for me?" You know, so you get charged back up. Having this principle work in your life every day is like having a fully charged, energized, not phone, person, you, high payoff activity, individual, and that's what we're trying to get across to everybody. It's like, no, be charged. Let's go
Yeah.
make it happen.
And that takes us right into episode 13, and that is how to score your day. And you need to score your day because it's accountability and it's recognition, and it lets you know that you're on track. So, Adam, when we come back here on episode number 13, how to score your day, that's going to be fun. For Adam Vincent
Awesome.
Gilmer,
Thanks,
this
Gene.
is Living Your Life Well Planned, the 80-20-365 success system. Go to Adam's website, 80-20-365, get your daily planner. Take a look at everything that's there. You know, the other thing that's really good to do as well, go back to some of the first podcasts or videos and review and review. Nothing like repetition to really drive the lessons home.
Yep.
So we'll be back here in a couple of seconds with episode number 13, How to Score Your Day, for Adam Vincent Gilmer. I'm Gene Velitis. See you on our next episode.